Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce Ms. Maya Sherman, a visionary leader whose extensive experience and unwavering commitment to technology have left an indelible mark. AI policy researcher and ethicist, Maya's deep understanding of artificial intelligence and its ethical implications positions her as a thought leader. She serves as a scientific council member in the Israeli Association of Ethics in AI, where her insights contribute to responsible AI practices. Advisory board member at Fidutum. Within the tech community, Maya holds a pivotal role as an advisory board member at Fidutum. Her strategic guidance influences critical decisions in technology and innovation. AI consultant at Caro Sambal. Maya's impact extends globally. As an AI consultant at Caro Sambal, she provides strategic counsel on AI policies and digital transformation, specifically in the context of waste management services across India. Recognizing her exceptional talent, Maya has been selected as a Biennial Fellow for Tech Development by the American India Foundation. This prestigious fellowship underscores her commitment to advancing technology for social benefit. Academic pursuits and scholarships. Maya's academic journey is equally impressive. She earned her MSc in Social Science of the Intellect from Oxford University, where she explored the intercultural dimensions of digital ethics and governance during crisis. Meritorious achievements. Prior to her Oxford tenure, Maya obtained her BA Hons from Richmond University and her MA from Tel Aviv University. Maya Sherman's unwavering commitment to ethical technology, scholarly pursuits, and global impact exemplifies the very essence of leadership. Please join me in welcoming Maya, a trailblazer who inspires us all.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. It's wonderful to be here. So thank you, of course, for the organizers. I'll be sharing my presentation in a moment.
Yes.
So again, I guess from a bit of a different perspective to the different slides and presentations, I'll be speaking a bit about AI ethics and fairness for SMEs and how generally businesses are supposed to perceive the concept of AI and the intersection between technology and businesses, and what it's all about when it comes to responsible AI. Was briefly introduced before. I've been in the space for over a decade, working on everything connected to AI ethics and governance in both the government space, private sector, and different continents. Currently, I'm logging in from India. I moved to India 6 months ago to lead different initiatives in the space of climate AI and waste management. Some of the initiatives are in coordination with the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence established by the OECD. And on my other capacity, I'm with the American India Foundation. So as we discussed before, when we are thinking of AI, we are speaking about the ability to mimic human conduct and being able to create an algorithmic perception and understanding of what AI is supposed to be when it comes to mimicking us. And that's, of course, a big philosophical question, understanding how non-human creatures and devices can say what is our conduct and what is supposed to be us. So this has a lot of different dimensions. And as technology progresses, we are able to see different aspects of what an automated version of us is supposed to look like. ChatGPT, of course, accelerated the entire process we are seeing today, that the ability to automate human tasks gets us a bit closer to this vision of human machine teaming and more automated version of ourselves as a society. I will say briefly, and when we're speaking about AI, we also need to understand there is a very strong sociocultural dimension and setting in which technology thrives. When we're thinking about the COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-19 misinformation, conflicts, these are all triggers that AI acted in different ways in them. So if we're thinking about the more technical aspects of machine, deep learning, all presented before, the different aspects ethically, I do want to emphasize that we are also living in times that requires us also to understand the ethical implications and the social implications which AI works. And I want to speak a bit about AI for good. And when we're thinking about AI and specifically about the options of AI mimicking us, and especially for businesses, we do need to understand that that AI can be beneficial for many different aspects of our life, also for businesses. And the question for us is also to understand how we're actually advancing with it. Oh, just a second, let me reshare the presentation. So I want us to speak a bit about the concept of, again, AI has also some interesting aspects to the intersectionality and the fact that we as humanity, we have different components of our identity that are connected. And that's why when we're speaking about AI and the digital transformation, especially when we're thinking of the intersection with businesses, we do need to understand that there are a lot of ethical and cultural aspects in which shape the way that AI impacts society and generally ourselves as humans. So when we're thinking, especially for businesses, it is important to understand that there are still a lot of sociocultural limitations to AI. So if we spoke about, again, generally the technical implications, I do want us to understand that there are still issues when it comes to the cultural aspects. There is still not enough, I would say, efficiency when it comes to the linguistic coverage of AI. Still, the data sets and most of the tools work better in English. One of the biggest goals, especially for ethicists and businesses out there, is trying to create this AI-driven engines that can actually be more representative and more diverse and being able to accommodate more languages. I would say from the Indian perspective, especially working here on climate AI, there are pioneering initiatives that, of course, try to account for all the official languages in the country when it comes to developing AI tools. This is something that is coming and it's still being tested, but it also represents the fact that AI is not just technological, but is also social and needs to accommodate a large portion of populations, of businesses, and it's not just a technological product. We have seen different cases in the last few years showing the issues in the cultural adaptation of AI. We've seen this primarily in the AI-driven content moderation in Brazil and Myanmar, in which problematic translations led to physical clashes. We are seeing the acceleration of deepfake across communities using AI. So there are a lot of very different aspects that shape how AI is perceived in society. And that leads, I think, to the more interesting aspect of AI today, which is the ethical aspects. So we're speaking a lot about digital transformation, the different technological stages, what AI can and cannot do. It is important to understand that there is a very strong ethical setting which AI is sitting and operating on. And we need to understand how we're working best with it. So especially when it comes to the business sector, we still are saying there's still divide. Not all populations, not all groups in society are able to work with AI. This, of course, has implications on marginalized groups. And this is important as we are seeing a much more digitally saturated reality in which ChatGPT controls so many aspects of our lives. We need to make sure that no one is left behind. A lot of the work being done today, and it is important to acknowledge this, addresses the need in AI literacy and fluency programs for groups and societies that are not used to working with technologies, either due to age, religion, ethnicity, gender. There are various of factors that impact our adoption of technology. And this is something that we should take into consideration, because in many ways, when we are creating a much more AI-driven reality, there are many groups that might be lagging behind and won't be able to do what they want to do, either in terms of jobs, as presented in the slides before me by the other speakers, or just again in terms of just being and not being part of different public services that might be run by AI. So this is something that should be taken into consideration when we're speaking about that. And this leads to the very core issue with AI, and that's the fact that AI relies on us. AI replicates human biases. We are speaking about gender biases, demographic biases. Everything can be a bias. And when we're thinking about it more concretely, bias in its basic form, we are addressing towards human tendency of a certain side. Bias is the fact that sometimes, because of this tendency to prefer something and not be indifferent in our choices, we might do things that will harm the choice that we didn't choose. And as in all the time, it's the road not taken, and we can choose different things in life, and we have the autonomy to do so. But what if certain public services that will be run on AI will not be accommodated to certain populations? And this is one of the considerations that we as ethicists and practitioners should always take into consideration, because AI reinforces some of the human biases that we have in society. We've then seen this quite substantially in the business sector when it comes to recruitment. Many female candidates are not able to submit to tech positions. I used to work in the past in designing D&I tools and diversity tools to make sure that all the candidates are able to reach to the interview stage. So AI can be used to tackle this as well. But still, this is a loophole, and it's part of the consideration that product designers and generally business today do need to consider when they're developing AI-driven services and understanding how AI can be incorporated in different lifestyles and choices, broadly speaking. So here again, it's a different aspect, but when we're thinking about AI, we should think of it as an extension of ourselves, as an extension of humans. And this is the reason why a lot of the action that AI is taken, a lot of the services that we are seeing will be impacted by us, and that's for good and for bad. So there are a lot of good things that we can replicate, but there are a lot of negative things that we need to know how to moderate their consequences. Out of shortage of time, I'll move a bit more to something a bit more concretely from the policy landscape. These are thrilling times when it comes to AI. I would say from the European perspective, that usually most of the AI regulation came from Europe. It took a pretty big amount of time till we were able to see the approval of the EU AI Act, and probably the most rigorous document trying to classify the different levels of harm and danger that certain AI-driven services pose. There are different actors today that are also trying to foster certain regulation, but of course, with the GDPR and other European regulations, Europe still had this kind of dominance in the space. Again, from the Indian perspective, toward the election, it's clearly an exciting year in the country. There is a very strong push when it comes to regulating AI, but specifically from the deepfake perspective, we're also seeing this from other countries, that when it comes to the threats of AI, there is an urgent need of countries and generally actors to see how we can moderate the impact of automated generation of content, which is a great feature of AI as a tool, as a technology, and yet it can lead to disinformation, to deepfake, and to the harm of certain marginalized communities. One of these examples, just to show this a bit more on a global scale, we have seen the impact of deepfake in elections in Slovakia. We actually had in the recent election process in the country, there has been usage of deepfake videos of one of the candidates that seem to be affecting actually certain results. And this is a very big fear, because when we are thinking of deepfake in elections, we are actually realizing that we are putting one of our biggest assets of the public trust in the voting system, and AI can jeopardize it. And in the end, we are speaking about the people leading certain countries, leading nations, leading policies. So we need to make sure that we're also able to moderate some of the implications. When we're thinking a bit backwards, we've seen this kind of risk of electoral interventions in Cambridge Analytica in 2016 in the campaign of Trump. And when we're thinking of all of this, we're seeing the power of technology, and particularly AI, to distort some very critical decision-making in our lives. So it can start with critical, deepfake, critical decision-making processes, such as elections. It can move to pandemics, it can move to conflicts. We're seeing this also today with climate misinformation, and generally the spread of automated content. But it can go also to sometimes our day-to-day life and the question of what's critical and what's not. It's a complex one. But generally speaking, when we're thinking of it the same way that we're defining critical infrastructure, I would like us to think of critical deepfake in which AI is actually able to distort, impact, and reshape certain opinions and situations of critical decision making, impacting large sums of populations. And elections is clearly one of them. Of course, as I spoke a bit, so currently in India, we are seeing also very interesting usage and attempts to moderate the AI usage and trying to see if we can limit a bit the usage of AI for deepfake purposes. This is also true, of course, for businesses and for other sectors, as we're trying to understand how AI can still help us to enjoy the benefits, but in the same time, making sure that certain populations won't be harmed. And when it comes to deepfake, we will see that most of the populations that will be harmed are marginalized communities. So if you can see here, you will see that the targets of AI-driven deepfakes and generally a lot of the more problematic implications of AI will be women, will be sometimes vulnerable ethnical communities. We are currently also seeing this, I would say, in the Bollywood and Hollywood industries, in which again, women are targeted when it comes to deepfake and the creation of AI-driven content that are fake and sometimes lead also to pornography. And this is something that is very crucial to understand. So we have a very technological phenomenon called AI that has very strong sociocultural roots and very similar to a lot of other factors in our life. The first one that might face the harms and implications of it will be those marginalized groups that either don't know how to use the technology, or in many cases are in a certain position in society that will hijack them and won't allow them to be in center. And this is something that is very important in product design and understanding of the new businesses, of how we're supposed to shape AI to be responsible, how we can make sure that the use does not harm those marginalized groups while creating automated videos. And we can actually enjoy the fact that we have this automated extension of ourselves, which is quite useful. So now I'll move a bit more to the policy considerations of AI, which is quite important. First of all, we need to put a lot of emphasis when it comes to AI on how to create the right debiasing tools and mitigating the digital divide. Digital divide is still here. Not all populations are adapted to use AI, and this is also the responsibility of the business owners, the policymakers, and all those involved to create these collaborations and understanding how we're promoting AI fluency and generally digital literacy. We are lacking a bit when it comes to local mechanisms of content moderation. So when we are thinking of the issues of AI, when it comes to automated content generation, we need to make sure that we're able to enforce regulations and we're able to protect users from possible cyberbullying, pornography, any kind of harm online. But there's still a gap between the policy and the enforcement due to the size of the phenomenon. And this is something that we will be able to see in the upcoming time with the approval of the EU AI Act and other regulations. So it'll be very interesting to see the space and how we're able to enforce this. But possibly the more interesting parts are everything connected to the multi-stakeholder collaborations and policy prototyping. We're seeing some initial routes for this. We're seeing the ability of certain companies, academia, and public sector to collaborate and create new options of work and responsible AI guidelines. And this is something that should continue as the ecosystem of AI is composed of different players and different actors out there. And we have, of course, everything connected to AI literacy and fluency and critical thinking, which is probably one of the most interesting and important skills that we need to see when we're speaking about the phenomenon of AI. And generally of understanding technologies and how we're supposed to address that. So to sum it up, when we're thinking of AI and the future of AI, so the main point of my talk today was to just first of all to show that AI is a technological phenomenon. However, it has substantial sociocultural aspects that we need to consider when we are building and designing businesses, creating new services, and generally trying to see how to protect certain communities online. And to do that, we need to think more towards human-machine teaming. We need to promote awareness and literacy. We need to think on the future of work, how people will be adapted to the new future of work, the new generation of skills, and make sure that everyone is included in the discussion. So this is my talk for today. Again, this is just kind of like a brief insight into the world of AI, a bit towards the different aspects of it, technological, non-technological, and just to give a kind of a glimpse toward the world that we're about to live in, which is very interesting. It's a world that is semi-automated, a world in which the human definition can be undermined in a way. And still, it's a world with a lot of opportunities. So as long as we're able to enjoy the benefits and moderate the harms, we're going into a very exciting space using these tools. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and also to the organizing team. And of course, available for questions.